everyone. I am Shruti Singhal from Think Question Private Limited. So in the previous sessions, we have discussed about all the approaches of manual and automation testing. We have also dived into important testing which comes under functional and non-functional testing. In today's session, we are going to do something practical. So we are going to understand how we can write test cases in Excel sheet. So before writing these test cases in Excel sheet, we need to understand what is a test scenario and what is a test case. So let us get started. So let us first understand what is a test scenario. So if I talk about any test scenario, it is a high-level description of what needs to be tested. So here we ensure that entire functionality of a system or application is covered. For example, if I have an e-commerce website, then there are a lot of functionalities in this, like login functionality, registration functionality, search functionality, add to cart, log out, payment, OTP generation, so much more. So when we cover all those functionality, those are called as test scenario. So it is a documented description of functionality or a feature of what a software has to be tested upon. So these are all real world use cases or business requirement. So let us understand what are the characteristics when we are creating a test scenario. So first thing is, it is derived from your SRS, that is your requirements or use cases, and it focus on what to test, not how to test, right? So that is why in a single test scenario, there can be multiple test cases. And that is how it helps in end-to-end testing of any feature. Now let us understand, as I have just given you one example, let us take an example of a login functionality scenario. So there could be multiple scenarios within this also, that we verify the users can log in with valid credentials, or we verify that the login is failing with incorrect password, and we verify that the forgot password functionality is working. This can also be considered as a test cases in login functionality, or you can create separate scenarios as well. So there could be multiple scenarios that can be created. So when I talk about test scenario and test cases, there is a huge difference which we are going to understand later. But just to brief about, the test scenario is a high level functionality, whereas test case is a low level functionality. In test scenario, we focus on what to test, whereas in test case, we focus on how to test. Now, let us understand the benefits of test scenario. So it is easy for review, right, for stakeholders, because these stakeholders are non-technical people. And it ensures that your test coverage is wide. And also it helps us to identify any major functionalities and to check them whether there is any bug that is appearing. So that is all about test scenario. Now guys, let us dive into what is a test case. So as you can see on my screen, a test scenario can have multiple test cases inside it. So a test case is what? It is a set of actions or input, the conditions, where you verify that the actual result is matching your expected result. So here we verify a specific functionality of an application. And it also consists of a lot of key components. So what are these key components? Let us understand one by one. So the very first component is test case ID. So this has to be a unique identifier to identify any particular test case. Then we have the test scenario. So this is the broader functionality that is being tested. So if you, for example, verify that if my username and password is correct, my profile page should appear. So what is the test scenario over here? It will be my login functionality. Then we have the test steps. Here we write down the detailed steps that we need to perform to execute that particular test case. Then we also have the data. Here we can give any single random data also, and we can have multiple data that can be tested on a single test case. Then we write down what is the expected result, that what should happen if my test is going to pass. And then we write down the actual result, that is what actually happened during the test execution. And then we write down the status. So status is based upon the expected and actual result. So if my expected result and actual result are same, then we say that the test case has passed. And if they are different, then we say that the test case have failed. There could be one more situation of blockage that might occur because of some network error or some other situations. And then we also give certain remarks, that is any additional info or any observation that we want to provide about that test case, right? For example, we have some test case ID, right? It could be some TC underscore login underscore 01. And what will be the scenario that we are verifying the login with valid credentials. So what will be the test steps? The very first step will be we have to navigate to login page. We have to enter a valid username and password, and we have to click on login. And what could be a data? For example, the username could be test user and password could be 123456. Then what is the expected result? That user should be redirected to the dashboard or profile page. And what is the actual result? That the user is actually getting redirected to the dashboard. So what will be the status in this situation? Pass. But for example, even after adding a valid credential, the actual result is that my profile page is not getting displayed. The login button is working, but profile page is not getting displayed. So in that situation, the status will be fail. So that is how we actually write down the test case. We will also experience this once we create one example for it. Now guys, as I told you that test case and test scenario is a very important topic, and let us understand the difference between the two. So when I talk about a test case, the level of performance is tactic level, whereas in test scenarios, it is strategic level. We define the strategies over here. When it comes to a test case, we actually talk about how is most that is better, that how we have to test a particular thing. Whereas in test scenario, we focus on why. That means what all things we need to test and why we need to test them. So test cases are executed by a tester or any QA professional, whereas test scenario is a high level guidance and it is assisted well in decision making. So test cases are hard to maintain. So if there is any change, any bug that is appearing, you have to execute all of them again. And scenarios are easy to maintain. Then there could be some ambiguous situation in test scenarios, but in test cases, there is no ambiguity because we have well-defined test steps, prerequisite, and what is the expected outcome that has to come. So it is very much well-defined. Now, guys, we need to also remember certain points whenever we are doing any kind of testing. So let us understand one by one all the points that we need to remember. So first of all, what is the importance of test cases? Basically, it ensures complete coverage of features and it helps in reproducible testing. Also, when you write test cases, that can be essential in regression and you can automate them also. They also serve as a documentation for any kind of future testing that has to be performed. Now, when it comes to the points to remember, the first point is that understand the requirements thoroughly. That means that you should read and analyze the SRS, that is the software requirement specification and use case. And if you have any doubts, you need to clarify them with the business analysis or developer before writing them, before writing any test cases for the same. The second point is that keep the test cases clear and simple. This means you should use a very clear language and short sentences while writing a test case. Then the third thing is that you should write the steps that anyone can follow easily. Now, the next property is that you should use unique test case ID. So this is going to help in tracking or referencing any particular test case. Next is to cover positive and negative scenarios. So you should always write the test cases where you have the correct data, the expected flow, and also the incorrect data, that is invalid input or missing fields or incorrect data, to identify that if this kind of data is passed, what is going to be the result. Then the next is you should follow a standard format. It should not be like you are writing some of the components and now some of them are missing. That is, you should have a proper test case ID, test scenario, test steps, actual result, expected result, as we have just given status and remarks. Then is reusability. Then when you write your test cases, you have to be very modular so that we can reuse them. So that is why you should use some preconditions to avoid any kind of repeating steps. Then you have to write the expected result clearly. So you have to mention what exactly should happen after the steps. You have to be very specific that what should exactly happen. Then you have to avoid any kind of assumptions. So there should be no assumptions that this is automatically predictable. So if there is any assumption, you have to clearly state that. Because if it is unclear, we get it confirmed by the product owner or developer. So whatever assumptions if you are making also, you should document it. Then is ensure traceability, that link your test cases with the user requirements and user stories that help in coverage analysis. Then is include precondition and post-condition. That means what should be done before running a test case. For example, if I'm talking about login, then user must have registered first. And what is the post-condition? That, for example, if I'm searching something in the payment, then at that point of time, user should be logged in that particular website. Then the next is think like a user. Then imagine how real user would interact with the system and uncover all the edge cases and usability issues. Then keep it ready for automation if applicable. So if any automation wants to be done later on, the format should be very much structured and it has to be consistent so that you can easily automate it later if required. So this is all about the points to remember whenever you are performing a test. Now guys, we will be taking any e-commerce application, for example, a very common application that you have already, everybody is using it, like for example, Amazon.com or Flipkart.com. These are all e-commerce website. And I will be telling you how to write the test scenarios first in Excel, and then how can we write a test case. So I'm going to write the test case for a single scenario. The rest of the scenarios, you can use them to write the test cases on your own. So let's get started with it. So now guys, I'm sharing one Excel sheet in front of you. So what I will be doing is I will be writing certain test cases over here, right? So initial thing that I'm going to write is some test scenarios, and then I'm going to move towards the test cases. So the headings you can give on your own, but the labels that I'm going to use has to be same. So here I'm writing a heading for it, that is test scenario. Okay, so you can just make this thing a little bold. You can just increase the font, you can give it a color. That is completely your choice. This is just beautifying the things, and this can be done like this. Okay, so here I have written test scenario. Then first thing over here, what you need to write is you have to write the application name. So here I'm writing the application for which I am creating this scenarios. So the application is guys www.amazon.com or in any application you can take. Okay, so this is my application for which I'm writing my test scenario. So what is the first column that has to be there is the requirement ID. This will be coming from the SRS. So this is my requirement ID. That means it could be a use case or it could be something that is related to users, use cases or SRS. Then the next column that is there is guys, that is test scenario ID. As I said that there has to be some unique IDs that is provided to actually track it. Okay, so we have test scenario ID. The next column will comprise of the description of it. So here we will write what is actually going to be tested in this particular ID. So we will describe that particular scenario. These scenarios can vary from person to person also. Okay, so I'll just and paste it here. And the next thing that we have is guys, that is every scenario has some test cases. So how many test cases have I created for that particular scenario? Also, every scenario that you're going to make has certain what priority, or you can also write severity. Okay, so that means how important that scenario is to make right now. So this is all about the scenario making. Okay, so now guys, let us write certain scenarios. So I have just given some label. I have given the application over here, and this is my all the labels. Now there could be various requirements. So I'm just going to write one by one all the requirements and let us see how we have to perform. So let us state some requirements. So you can start with any number. So I'm just labeling them as US001. And then you can just drop down for having different types of requirement numbers. Similarly, each requirement that you are going to make will have certain scenario ID. So it could be double zero you can put here also. That is your choice how you're making it. Okay. So let's say I'm writing it here TS01, and similarly, I am moving it below down like this. So I have, for example, 10 scenarios. Okay. Then here I have to write the description of this scenario. So what is to be tested in the scenario? For example, in Amazon, the first thing is we are verifying login functionality. So it is your choice that for login functionality, you can create 2 to 3 scenarios. I'm just creating one scenario for it. Then, for example, you are then verifying home page behavior, that how my home page is behaving, all the icons are there on the page or not, and all other things like do we have the search option, do we have something by which we can log out or not. Then we have verify search functionality. So here we can actually see whether we are able to find the search functionality, whether we can able to apply any kind of filters, right? Whether we are able to sort. So all these things can be searched in the search functionality. Then the next it could be verify product description. So proper description about that product is coming or not. So we are verifying over here the product description. So like this, you can write down a lot of scenarios, right? Let me just write down these 10 scenarios. You will get a pretty idea about it. So we can have, like, we can verify the payment functionality, order history, contact page, help page. So I've already written certain, so you can just see over here. So these are my scenarios that I have just written. Okay. So what is happening in this scenario is that we are verifying different functionality. So here in this sheet, you can label this sheet as test scenario. Okay. So here you can see order history. You can also have OTP scenario. You can also have whatever you want to. So here the number of test cases. So we can write down, see, this is a high level priority, right? This is medium level priority, let's say. Again, this is medium level priority. So you can just write down, this is also medium level priority. Okay, let's say search is high level. Payment is obviously high level. Okay. Order history is medium for me, that I can even check it. This is low for me. This is also low for me. Okay. And card functionality is high for me. And GPay functionality is, if it is not working, we have other options of paying. So that is why I've given it low. So you can actually, this priority can also change depending upon application, depending upon the user requirements and stakeholders as well. So this is how we have just created a scenario. Now guys, I'll just click over here and I'll just create the test cases for my one of the scenario. So here I'm going to mention the scenario that is verify login functionality. So I'm going to create the test cases for this particular scenario. So let us understand how we can make it and what all things should be there while writing it. Okay, so first of all, you should write some common description about any page, like what is the screen name, who is testing it, what is the destination, and what is the date. So we'll have some common descriptions that is mentioned over here. So let us talk about it. What could be the common description? So what will be the common description? It could be the screen name, who has prepared it. Okay. So this is the common description that we will have. Okay. So what can we do is we can just write it down. So I'm just going to write it down, screen name. Let me just broad it up. Then prepared by. Then I'm writing designation. And lastly, I'm telling it the date on which I'm doing. So what is the screen name, guys? It is login page. Who is preparing it? Let's say I'm writing my name over here. What is the designation? Let's say QA tester. Okay. And what is the date? Let's say we are writing some random date over here. Okay. So this is how you basically write down the initial details about anything. Okay, so you can just make this thing bold so that it is completely visible to you. Okay, I hope it is clear from here that what are we writing. So here we can also give the company name, that this is my company, and we can have some logo or something related to that company. Okay, so this is the company, and what is the company? www.amazon. So that is not mandatory. You can just write it there itself. Just for some orientation, we have written like this. Okay, so I'm just going to merge and center. Okay, um, okay. So we'll write here. Actually, I have merged the cells. So that is why it is doing it. So writing it again. Company is www.amazon. Okay, so you can just broaden it like this. Okay, and you can just make it go in the middle or in the center. These all things can be done very easily. Okay, you can give it some color. Okay, similarly, this can be given some color. All these things you can do. So what I'm going to mention next, this is very important. Here comes our scenario ID and the scenario description. So we'll mention here what is the scenario ID. And here we mention the scenario description. Okay. So what is the scenario ID, guys? It is this one. Okay. So I'll just copy it from here. I'll paste it here. And what is the description? What are we going to test? We're going to have right here that verify login functionality. So this is how we have given the description. So we are ready with the main page. So you can just copy paste it and then just change the fields. So this is how basically we do the all the main important things. So then let us just okay. So we are not merging them. Actually, you can merge this much portion, right? So it will come like this. So that is your choice how you want to merge it. So let us come to the main part. So now, guys, what we have to write here? We have to write the first thing as test case ID. Okay. After writing the test case ID, what is the next thing? I have just told about the key components. Okay. So the first thing that we have written is test case ID. Then what do we need, guys? We need the description of this particular test case. What are we going to do? Right? After the description, we have precondition. So as I told you, you should also mention what is the precondition. That means what should be already there when we are doing such kind of testing. The next thing that we have is that is test data. Okay, so here is the data on which I'm going to perform the test. And here comes the test steps. So what are the steps that needs to be followed? Then here we have the, so let me just plot this column, that is the test steps. Okay, because this is really important. And here we will have some more steps. That is why I'm just making this thing a little big. Okay. So I'll just exit and paste it here. Okay. So these all alignments and everything, this is one-time thing. Okay. After the steps, what do we have? We have the expected result and the actual result. So we can also have post conditions, as I told you, right? Result, actual result. And if there is any post condition, I'm just writing, I'll just make the alignments later. And then what do we have to write? So expected result, actual result. So post condition can be written before the actual result also. That is your choice how you're writing it, right? And it might be there that every time we do not have any post condition. And here we will have the status that it is passed or fail. And then we have the comments if we want to give any comments. So these are very important thing, guys, as I have just written over here. These are something that is really required. Okay, so I'm just going to So I hope this is making you really clear about what all things needs to be created whenever you're writing the test cases. Now, similarly, when I'm writing a test case, I should have a unique ID, as I just said. So it could be like, suppose you are checking for the login. So you could like write like this, tc underscore login underscore 001. So by the name, it is very clear that you are verifying the login functionality, and this is the first test ID that you have written. So here you are going to write the description. So description is very important. Okay. So I am writing enter valid username and password. Okay. So that's the description that I'm taking. Okay. After that, what I have to do, guys? What is the next thing? The next thing is that I have to write the precondition. So what is the precondition? Registration is done. Okay, so registration should already be done. Only then I am able to do that. Okay, what is the data that needs to be tested? So here I have to mention the username and password. So let's say I'm taking a username, or it could be an email ID and password also. Okay, so the username is @gmail.com. Okay, so what I'll do, I'll just click here, text. Okay, this is the username, and then I'm mentioning some password which I need to test, and that is, so this is the data that I'm passing. Okay, so you should understand what is the data and what is the thing that I want to actually pass. Okay, so here I have the data, username and password. Now what is the steps? What are the steps involved to do this thing? So I have to enter so go to login page. Okay, then what I have to do? Yes, what is the second step? Again, I'll just the run text over here. What is the second step, guys? That I have to enter the username and password. And lastly, what I have to do? I have to click on login. So this is the steps that we need to perform. After that, what is the expected result? That the profile page of the user should be displayed, right? So you can also write that as a post condition. So first thing is login is successful. And in actual also, the login is successful. And let's say what is the post condition? That my profile page is displayed. And then we have to write down the status. So the status is here, and we do not have any cover. So this is how we write down one test case. I'm going to also write down one more test case to make you understand the things. Don't worry about it. So let me just write down. You can just drag this and then write down also. So the next test case will be, it could be a positive. You can also write down the type of test case you're writing, right? So we have right now written what? That we have written a valid username and password, then this is going to happen. The next case would be that you are entering a invalid username and password, right? Okay. So here I'm going to write enter invalid username and password. So what will happen if I enter a invalid username and password? Obviously, my registration should be done, and I'm just taking this data only. But now the password that I'm giving is incorrect. Okay. Now, again, the steps is same, right? And here, what is the expected result? What is the expected result? You have to completely write that result. Okay. So there should be a pop-up message that the password, the username or password is incorrect, we are unable to log in. So you have to write that entire step, that there should be one pop-up message that enter correct username and password, right? And then what is the actual result? The actual result is that it states on the login page and with the message displayed, right? So that is what we actually want also. Okay, so this could be the post condition actually. So the actual message is that, actual result is that pop-up appear. What should be the post condition? That it will stay on login page with message display. So that is my post condition. And this is also getting passed, that this is, everything is happening. So for example, if my pop-up message is not appearing, we are there on the login page, but the pop-up message is not appearing, that we will say the status is fail, because we are not getting the exact result as we actually want. Now let us make one more test case. So this test case, I am going to say, let's say for example, I'm entering a valid username and password, but I have not entered a specific field. Or if I say that login button is working or not, I just want to check this thing. Or if I want to say that forgot password button is visible or not. Or if I say reset password is working or not. So there could be multiple test cases that you can create. For example, the next is the, test case that I'm going to create here is that username is not entered. So I have to check this thing again. All the things have the same precondition. So here I have the same data again, but now I have not given any username. That's, I have just left it blank. Okay. Again, we are going to the login page. We enter only the password, right? And we click on login. So what should happen when I'm doing it? So it should give me a message, what username required. So there should not be a pop-up that it is incorrect. Instead, it should give me a message that username is required. Okay, and that is the actual result is not matching. Okay, so I will say the message does not appear, but it does not allow to log in. So it is not allowing me to log in, but the message is not appearing, right? So what is the post condition? So again, we have to stay on the login page with my message display. That is same, right? This should be my post condition. So here my test case is failing because the message is not appearing. Okay, it is there on the login page. I'm not able to log in, but the message is not appearing. So I will say that the thing is not complete or the status is fail over here. And then we try to find out what is the reason behind this, and we write down the test cases for the things. Okay, let us create one more. So you can similarly create the test case that username is not entered or password is not entered. The same thing can be created for the password. For example, if I copy and paste this thing and I have not entered the password, right? I have entered the username, but this time I have not entered the password. So what I'll do is I'll just copy and paste this thing here. So this time, instead of giving a wrong password or something, I'm not entering any password. Okay, so enter the username only. So what should be the message? The message should be password required. And the same message we are getting. For the password, it is working fine, right? So this is going to then, right? So like this, you can create more test cases. So these are some basic test cases, that is valid username and password, invalid username and password, right? Username is not entered, password is not entered. Then you can create one testing, for example, how much time it is taking to load your page. right? You could create some test case like that. For example, if I write down this test case and I am telling that profile page displayed in less than 5 seconds. Okay, so again, over here, login is successful. So login is working. Okay, but I want to see only the response time over here. So again, I'm going to take the same username and password. You can have different datas also, right? So if I have written this username and password, again, what I have to do is I'll just go to login, enter the username and password and click on login. So this is the precondition. Here my login should be successful. So what should be the actual result? So what you can do is you can just freeze this column if you just want to see the things. Right now I'm just scrolling it. So what is the expected result? The expected result is that my profile page is opened, which is opened in less than 5 seconds. Okay, but what is the actual result? That profile page is opened in 7 seconds, let's say. Okay, so what is it, right? So what is the after thing? That obviously the profile page should be displayed, right? But it is going to pass or fail. So it is going to fail. So here you can just mention the comment also that taking a long time to show profile page and I'm having a good internet connection. They might say that your internet connection is poor or something, that you can just specify that I'm having a good internet connection, but still this is going to happen. So what should be done? So this is a part of, you can also say non-functional testing, right? But here we are just checking the user interface again. We are checking the throughput, right? So this is how you can create number of test cases. Then you can write it for the search functionality. Let me just give you a brief idea about, let's say if I talk about search functionality, like for example, you're searching the product with a valid name, you're searching the product with a partial name, or you are searching the product with the invalid name. So if it is invalid, there should be a message like no products are found. Okay. Then you are searching the product on the basis of some category or on the basis of certain brand. You're doing case sensitive and insensitive search, right? What if you're just sending an empty search box? And what about the special characters? What about the sorting? Right? You can also mention, like for example, the performance. Here you are testing the performance of your profile page. So this is a performance test, right? So usability testing, multilingual testing. So you can differently mention the things. And the test data can also be mentioned below. If you're right, for example, you are testing the data on various test cases. So instead of writing the test data column over here, you can mention the data over here. So how you'll mention, so you'll write down here test data, and here you will write down the username, and here you will write down the password. So for example, the first test data is shruti@gmail.com. So I have some logged in details and I'm just testing them on different test data. So let's say Harsh at 12@gmail.com, right? And then this is a wrong password, okay? Let's say how it is going to behave. Let's say if I have another one more thing, that is anu123@gmail.com, and I'm entering a very long password. What is how it is going to behave if I'm giving a very long input, right? So that is how you can have your test data as well. Okay, so this is how basically the test data is going to perform. Okay, so this is all about how to write the test cases. So guys, in this session we have understood what is a test case, what is a test scenario, and what is the difference between them. Also, we have taken an example of amazon.com and we have created the scenarios. These are the scenarios that we have created. You can take some banking application, some healthcare application also. With the priority, you can also write down the severity of that particular scenario, but severity does not comes with a scenario. It generally comes with a test case. Because see, if this test case is failing, then here you can mention that the severity is high, okay, or the priority is high. So here, see, if you can just see, if the username is required, this message should come. So it is not going to impact my system, right? There's no impact. So what is the severity of this thing? It is medium, right? Obviously. Or we can also say the severity is low. It is not going to impact anything. But what is the priority? The priority is too high because I should have a proper navigation. I should have a proper message to be displayed. So priority is high. So that is also can be mentioned in the comments. And but this might be done by the project manager also, right? These comments can be added by the project manager instead of the testers also. So that is how basically the things are done in the case of manual testing, right? This is how basically we do it. And we can also write all these test cases on tools like Jira, Bugzilla, which we are going to understand later, right? And how to do that, we are going to take it into the accountability. So this is all for today, guys. So thank you very much.